is all about fighting for your standards. You have to fight. Look, it's either you fight for your limitations or you fight for your standards. It's either you fight for your vices and you stone anybody that says that's a low vibrational plate, and you stone anybody that says that's a low vibrational attitude, and you stone anybody that says that's a low vibrational behavior. Do you want to be a stoner, or do you want to be a healer? Do you want to be the one that stone people because they're showing you your self-imposed limitations, or do you want to be the one that build your home, your temple on what the word says, on the rock, right? People who are on quicksand are led by limitations. People who are rock steady are by standards. People who are on quicksand are led by limitations. People who are led into prosperity are rock steady because they're grounded in what? They're grounded in standards. They're grounded in values, not values to shame, blame, and make them a bad person, right? But values to say, how can I be in one with God? And rising and priming powerful beings, shout out to you. It's the Holistic Motivator, and today I'm going to be talking about fighting for your standards. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you fight for your standards, you get to reach them. Fighting for your standards is not letting go what mark you said you were going to be your lowest or your highest. Fighting for your standards has to do with, these are my standards in life, and no matter what I have to do, no matter what adjustment I have to make, no matter who I have to become, no matter what habits I have to adopt, no matter what philosophies or toxicity I got to get rid of from my body, I have to fight for my standards, right? A lot of times you started losing weight and then it didn't go the way you wanted to, so you stopped and then you just let go of that standard. You started eating healthy, it didn't go like you wanted, so you stopped fighting for that standard. Look, it's going to be a fight. Right? Why is it going to be a fight? Because it's not easy to change. It's not easy to transform. It's not easy to say, this is the lifestyle I'm choosing, and keep going with that lifestyle. So you have to fight for your standards instead of fighting for your limitations. Instead of saying I can't, or instead of saying like, I don't know, like I've always eaten like this, or my whole family is big bone, or I can never lose weight, or I can never get my routine on point, or I'm just always procrastinating, or I'm just a depressed person, or we have to stop fighting for our limitations, limiting self-talk, and we have to start fighting for our standards, which is opportunities, which is what's available for you, which is who you can become and what you can do. So keep tapping into this episode of Ed Talks Daily, where I talk about fighting for your standards. This is a podcast, and you can listen to this podcast by going to edtalksdaily.com and subscribe. And this podcast is all about how do you grow in all aspects of your life? How do you solidify a healthy mindset that will help you grow holistically, so you could have your body on point, your mind on point, your spirit aligned, your relationships on point. So keep tapping into this journey of becoming the best version of ourselves. So fighting for your standards has to do with, this is how much I value myself, right? This is what I accept from me. A standard is, this is what I accept from me. It does not matter what you accept from you, but this is what I accept from me. A standard is not necessarily on the basis of other people. A standard has to do with you, right? Other people may not match your standards, so they can't reach it, but they have nothing to do with them. Your standard is, what are you going to accept? So every single day that you rise and you make a decision, peace queen, every single day that you rise and you make a decision to go against what you said you were going to do, you're actually going out of, right? You're losing self-confidence, confiding in you, right? Your standard is how you keep your confidence, and your confidence is how you keep your discipline, and your discipline is how you achieve whatever you want. Which means a standard says I have something that I regularly measure myself against. A standard says I don't just go on the basis of, oh, I'm better than my brother, I'm better than my sister, or I've got more money than them, I'm actually a little healthier than them, or like you look at the people in my neighborhood. Standard is not comparison to things around you, people around you, or circumstances around you. Standard is the comparison to the best version of yourself. Like legit thinking like, yo, if I can reach the optimal version of me, what is that standard? Set the standard. You have to set the standard, because if you don't set the standard will be set. Not by you, but by society. Not by you, but by your mama. Not by you, but by your environment. Your environment sets your standards unless you set your standard. And this has to do with your mindset, your philosophy. This is why we work on Ed Talks Daily. Your mindset, your philosophy. The more you set your mind, the more you're going to be able to set your standards. The thing with most people is they're not checking their philosophy. They're not checking their mindset. Therefore, they're not aligning with their standard. Now, a standard is not meant as a tool of blame or shame. Don't look at your standard and feel bad. Look at your standard and feel good that you say, oh, I have my 50% is somebody else's. Look, my zero is somebody else's. My zero is somebody else's 50%. Like when you're operating at 50%, you're like, yo, this is my zero. Your standard says, I'm not comparing myself against them. I'm comparing myself against the best version of me. What is the standard for your health? What if somebody started with the standard that, yo, my standard is I don't eat artificial foods, or my standard is I don't eat fast food. What is your standard? My standard is I have to move once or twice a week. That's your standard. That means you have to do it. That means every single day, every single week, twice a week, you got to work out. Somebody says, I have a standard of working out twice a week. I have a standard of at least eating veggies in my plate. I have a standard of this. But you're never checking to see if you're reaching the standard. Your boss do an analysis to see how well you're performing. Are you checking your performance? Now, a lot of people may think that you're Ed, the holistic motivator, got it going on. Look, I suffer a lot, but what I do is I don't stay in my suffering. I don't stay in my suffering. Why don't I stay in my suffering? Because I say I have a standard. So I learned this thing to adjust. That's all I do. I just adjust myself. Because what I realized was I'm going to keep having times in my life where maybe I'm not going to the gym consistently. I'm going to have times in my life maybe I want to eat a lot of sweets. I'm going to have times in my life where I fall off the standard. But what I have to do, what makes me in a way where I can keep getting better, is because I say, look, how do I realign myself with this standard? How do I realign myself with this value? What did I do that I stopped doing that served me so well that I'm now seeing how much I miss doing that thing? Start doing it again. So you not only do you have to set the standard, you have to review the standard, and then you have to realign yourself to match the standard. You have to set the standard, review the standard, realign yourself to. So how do you do that? What I do as a C-type personality, I got structures to review my week, right? I have structures to test my energy. Like I can tell when I'm not in energy. So my standard is, if I'm not at an optimal energy, am I matching up with my juicing in the morning, intermittent fasting in the morning? Am I having a proper serving of vegetables? Look, you have to fight for your standards, because guess what? Your limitation is going to be fighting a battle too. What I mean by that is sometimes your limitation is going to say like, yo, well, I can't get protein unless I eat meat. That's a limitation. So your limitation is going to say, oh, I don't have that. I can't do that, because that's a self-imposed limitation. Look, you have to fight for your standards, because your self-imposed limitation is going to be fighting inside of you. Your own habits, there's going to be a fight. When you're trying to transform from one way to another, there's going to be a fight. And that fight, the only way that you win it is you have to fight for your standards. You have to fight for your standards. So what do I mean? Look, I've had 3 months of my routine on point, my personal development on point, working on my business, marketing my business on point, communication on point, relation on point, and then boom, something happens. Out of standard. Don't feel good. A rut. guess what you got to say? You got to say, look, I can't stay down here. I have to fight for my standards. That means that moment you want to go and get those chips and that bags of candy, and you want to stop and eat a bunch of fast food, and you want to make that call, or you want to stop working out, you just want to watch TV all day, or you just stop posting on social media, you stop marketing your business. You have to keep fighting for your standards. This is what I love, the word. It's a continuous renewal of the mind. Look, renewal of the mind. Like, people think success is a linear process. Success is a renewal process. And success is only the result of mastering yourself. And your standards is how you become the master of self, and not mastered by your vices, mastered by your destructive habits, mastered by limiting mentality. Look, your standard is the thing that you measure yourself up against to see, oh, am I matching my own words? How's it going, fam? It has to start with your standards. Now, I'm saying this like this because I've been in a fight. I've been in a battle. And in one day in my life, I'm going to reach a point where I won't have to fight for my standards as much, because I'll literally be on offense and no longer on defense. Because look, there will be a point in your life where you won't have to do 3-month increments of greatness. Let me say that again. The goal is to reach a point in your life, and this is the process, where you won't have to do 2-month increments of greatness, 6-month increments of greatness, where you got 12 by 12 by 12 by 12. Somebody said, how will your life look like if all your positive habits came all together and they never went away for a whole year? How would your life look like if all your positive habits came together and never went away for a whole year? If you worked out, if you literally put in the work at work, if you literally made income and you invested in income and saved your income, if you were really conscious of the relationships you were having, if you were really conscious of how you invested into your mind, if you were really conscious in doing what you do intentionally, deliberately, every single day without ceasing, like, imagine how your life would look like if you went to the gym 3 times a week for 52 weeks. Imagine how your life would look like if you intermittent fasted at least 5 times out of the, if you juice feasted every season. How would your life look like if you had a meditation practice? How would your life look like if you woke up in a rising routine, rising and priming? How would your life look like if your connection with the Creator, with God, was stable, where every single day you are in Christ? How would your life look like if you were in one with the One? How would your life look like if you spent time in nature at the same time and gave the right quality of time with your kids, or your wife, or your husband, or your boyfriend, or your girlfriend, or your mother, or your father, or your sister, or your auntie, or your niece, or your nephew? How would your life look like if you literally gave attention to what needed attention to in the present season of your life? I really want you to think about that. And when I'm thinking about that, I'm like, bruh, yo, my life would look so beautiful. Don't you want to step into that beauty? Don't you want to step into that success? Don't you want to step into that self-confidence? To confide in yourself, to say, yo, look at this, right? This is all about fighting for your standards. You have to fight. Look, it's either you fight for your limitations or you fight for your standards. It's either you fight for your vices and you stone anybody that says that's a low vibrational plate, and you stone anybody that says that's a low vibrational attitude, and you stone anybody that says that's a low vibrational behavior. Do you want to be a stoner, or do you want to be a healer? Do you want to be the one that stone people because they're showing you your self-imposed limitations, or do you want to be the one that build your home, your temple, on what the word says, on the rock, right? People who are on the quicksand are led by limitations. People who are rock steady are led by standards. People who are on quicksands are led by limitations. People who are led into prosperity are rock steady because they're grounded in what? They're grounded in standards. They're grounded in values, not values to shame, blame, or make them a bad person. right? But values to say, how can I be in one with God? I always like to say, sin is God showing you what you're doing against your own prosperity. Like, sin is not God blaming you for doing wrong. Sin is God saying you, look, you've been lying yourself into having to explain yourself. Sin is saying you've been eating yourself into sickness. Sin is saying sin is not something to feel bad about. It's something to say, look, this does not serve me. This does not allow me to stay in my higher power. This does not allow me. This is not where the peace resides. This is not where the healing resides. Look, once you are able to fight for your standards, you are able to dictate where peace resides versus where chaos is. And what I discovered is, when we operate in coping mechanism, that's chaos. Coping mechanism is chaos. When we operate in healing modalities, this is peace. What's coping mechanism? What can I take so I don't have to deal with? What's coping mechanism? What can I do so that I don't have to deal with? What's a coping mechanism? What can I distract myself so I don't have to find the root of? What's a coping mechanism? A mask. It is something you do in place of what you really need. So you don't get yourself what you need, you get yourself what you want, so that way you don't have to need. A coping mechanism is one way to look, the same thing you could be doing for coping, you could be doing for healing. You just have to switch it, baby. Somebody says, yo, I have to smoke to be at peace. Did you know that every time you smoke, you take a deep breath? What if you replace your smoke with a deep breath? Wouldn't that bring peace too? Somebody said, I have to eat certain foods when I don't feel good so I can feel good. What if the foods that you ate to feel good actually was food that fueled your cells and not food that just helped you cope in that emotional state? So I say eat to heal instead of eating to cope. Move to heal instead of moving to cope. Act to heal instead of acting to cope. Set your standard. Review your standard and fight for your standard. Set your standard, review your standard, and fight for your standard every single day. Every single day. I am setting my standard. I'm fighting for my standard. I'm reviewing the standard. Every single day. Somebody says, why? I don't want to fight, bruh. Somebody says, I don't want to fight, bruh. Why not? Are you satisfied with mediocrity? Are you satisfied? You saying you could be farther, knowing that you could be better, knowing that there's way more you could reveal. And when you really look at you and you really know who you are, there's more for you. You know there's more out there. And you see it. You know it. You see it. Do you want to stay in knowing, or do you want to actually eat the fruits of that? What I'm saying is, when you fight for your standards, you're fighting for yourself. You're fighting for your mama. You're fighting for future generations. Fighting for your standards is so valuable because you're going to be here anyways. Why suffer the consequence of your limitation when you could benefit from the benefit of your standards? Why for the consequence of self-imposed destructive behaviors when you can benefit from constructing positive holistic habits? Why suffer when you can be at peace? Why suffer when you can say, look, this is my standard? And as sometimes as men, we don't have standard. We let people walk over us. By that, the prize. We make our client the prize. We make the boss the prize. We make the girl the prize, but we don't realize ourselves. We have to value yourself too. Setting a standard says, look, I'm not accepting toxic energy around me. I don't care how fine you look. God already told me that my spirit is fine. I don't care how fine you look. You're not going to walk over me because you're fine. You're not going to diminish my value because you're fine. Look, fighting for your standards is You have fought against a mentality of scarcity. You fought against a mentality of scarcity so much that people can't take advantage of you. Fighting for your standards is that you fought against the mentality of scarcity so much that you find out yet you lack nothing. So you're not attaching to things to be you're not attaching to people to be somebody. Because God told you you are somebody. Okay? Fighting for your standards mean that you know your value. Fighting for your standards is that you know how much you are worth. Fighting for your standards is so powerful. Okay, so I just came on here today to encourage you to fight for your standards, because if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. But when you fight for your standards, you get to reach them. That's my message, and I'm sticking to it. It's the Holistic Motivator. I want to shout out to everybody who tapped in to this episode of Ed Talks Daily. I just want to encourage you to go out there and fight for your standards. How does that look like? Review yourself. What did you say you were going to do versus what you actually did, and why did you do it? And go ahead and make that thing happen. All right? Make that thing happen. I appreciate y'all for tapping in. If you want to subscribe to this podcast, listen to it on the go as you drive to work, I have over 400 episodes on any subject about holistic living you can think of, right? And you can see my progression since 2017 to 2022. I always said, join me on this journey on becoming the best version of ourselves. So that's all I'm doing. I'm sharing the process with you. I'm sharing the messages that I'm downloading, God put inside of me. And I hope that they're adding value to you. So go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. And once you listen to it and you love it, leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That will help grow this. Now, let's say you want to go in further. Text EdTalk to 561-509-9605. Get added to the text messaging list. Then you're going to get empowering text messages. That's how you get closer to the tribe, right? So those are the 3 ways that you can support the movement of holistic living. So go to talksdaily.com and subscribe to this podcast. I appreciate you listening in. Remember, you have the unlimited power in you to reach your standard. But first you have to believe and defend the standard. Then you have to fight for standard. And if that happens, the world will forever miss the best version of you. The world will forever miss all your gifts, all your talents, and all the great things that you have to offer. So remember, let your light shine. Don't hide it. Don't dim it. It's the Holistic Motivator with another empowering message here. Peace.